Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Lisa Huber, and you're listening to the Divine I Am Broadcast Network, where we bring spiritual and metaphysical awareness from the heart to the public. Today, whoops, sorry, guys. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Dr. Margaret Paul. She's the author of 12 best-selling books. She's a psychotherapist, relationship expert, a noted public speaker, a workshop leader, educator, chaplain, consultant, artist, and co creator of Inner Bonding, a self healing process. She has appeared on numerous radio and television shows, including Oprah and Gaia TV, and she is a member of the Transformational Leadership Council. And she has, out of those 12 books, there's several I'm going to list here. She has How to Become Strong Enough to Love, Creating Loving Relationships Through the Six-Step Pathway of Inner Bonding, Healing Your Aloneness, Finding Love and Wholeness Through Your Inner Child, the Inner Bonding Workshop Workbook. Sorry about that. 6 Steps to Healing Yourself and Connecting with Your Divine Guidance. And Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You? How to access spiritual guidance for your joyful highest good every moment of your life. Welcome, Dr. Paul.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited. And I wanted to tell everybody, please feel free on whatever platform you're on to type in any questions you might have for Dr. Paul, because I'm going to be checking throughout the live. I have my own, but this live is for you guys. So please feel free to ask any questions. So let me just check with that and see if anybody's on our live. I see Cassie joined us, and Kathy, welcome, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to type any questions in. I will go ahead and get this started. Let me see, because I was anxious here. Dr. Paul, I just want to ask, for people starting their spiritual journey, could you let us know what is the inner child? And what is and how and when did you begin to see inner bonding and inner child work was so important for recovery and healing?
Well, I worked as a traditional psychotherapist for 17 years, and I was not happy with the results at all with my own psychotherapy and working with clients. And I actually started to pray for a teacher or a process to come in. And that's when I met the co-creator of Inner Bonding, Dr. Erica Chopich. She had half of Inner Bonding and I had half of Inner Bonding. And so Spirit came and kind of put it all together for us. And my life has been amazing since then. It's so transformed my life and the lives of hundreds of thousands of others. I didn't know anything about the inner child at that point. Erica did. The inner child is our soul. The way we define it, people define it differently, but we define the inner child as the part of our soul that's in our body. Our soul is really big, and a part of our soul is all around us, our higher self, and a part of our soul is in our body and usually communicates through feelings, can also communicate through words, but our feelings instantly let us know so much information. For example, feelings like anxiety or depression or guilt or shame or anger or aloneness or emptiness, these feelings are letting us know that we're not loving ourselves, that we're abandoning ourselves. Feelings such as loneliness or grief or heartbreak or helplessness over others let us know that there's something to attend to in the world, that life is having an effect, people are having an effect, and we need to attend to it. So it's so important to be aware of our feelings. And so many of us have learned, oh, your feelings don't matter, or just repress them or stuff them, or they don't mean anything, or they're not accurate. They're very accurate in terms of whether we're loving ourselves or abandoning ourselves and what we're needing to attend to in the world. Now, the rest of our soul is all around us. We're within our soul, and our soul is within us. And so part of inner bonding is learning to tune into that higher guidance, the higher aspect of our soul that also has incredible information for us. And so inner bonding is a 6-step process that leads people through being able to access their feelings, understand the false beliefs that may be leading to self-abandonment, and learning to access their their higher guidance, for truth, and for what's loving to ourselves. And when people practice this process, they actually create new neural pathways in their higher brain for what we call the loving adult. And this is the part of us that connects us with our inner child and our higher guidance. You can imagine one hand holding your guidance and one hand holding your inner child, and you as the adult are the one who can take action, loving action for yourself.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I just wanted to say I saw Mary pop in and Holgar, welcome. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments. That's what Dr. Paul has so graciously offered to be here for, to help everyone that's joining this live. Because I saw what you said, Mary. Mary said, I need this. I'm so sorry. Excuse, I'm going through a divorce amongst having a health issue. Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you for being here. Yes, please feel free to pop your questions in. Let me just check. Yeah, I wanted to say so many of us here, we're looking for self-help and healing. And as I've mentioned to many of the members in the Divine I Am community, that's one of the reasons we do this show, to showcase featured guests and all the different healing modalities that are available today, because hopefully we're helping others to make that connection with other guests that they feel they vibe with from viewing our show, because not everybody vibes together. And I'm a huge advocate for help for self-healing. And that's what drew me to you. I told you, as I mentioned before, you're my go-to person for this. So thank you so much. Let me just check in again and see if anybody has questions before I ask the next one. Okay, here we go. So I wanted to ask, I like your book, and it states other adults can help you, but they can only do it with you. They can't do it for you. Can you explain a little bit what that means?
Yeah, so lots of times we're brought up to believe that if only somebody else really loved us, we would get healed. The problem with this is that if we're not loving ourselves, if we're abandoning ourselves, then no matter what somebody else does, it's going to continue to create what we call the wounded feelings, the anxiety and depression and guilt and shame and so on. Let me just go through the four major ways that people abandon themselves. And this will make it easier for people to understand why somebody else's love isn't going to just do it. People, like you said, like I've written, can do it with you. They can support you in learning to love yourself. But they can't do it for you when you're abandoning yourself. And if you're not abandoning yourself, if you're loving yourself, you don't want to make somebody else responsible. You have the joy of taking loving care of yourself. So the four major ways that people abandon themselves. One is, most of us have learned to stay up in our head, because when we were growing up, we may have had a lot of pain. A lot of people I work with have been awfully abused, have terrible trauma. And so, and even if it wasn't horrible abuse, like I grew up with a lot of criticism, it was really painful, a lot of anger. So most of us learn to go up in our head because our feelings are in our body. This is like if a child comes to you upset, and instead of attending to the child and caring about the child, you're busy reading a book, or you're watching TV, or you're thinking about something, and you're not paying any attention to the child. That's what happens on the inner level. When we ignore our feelings, we stay up in our head and we avoid our feelings. So then our inner child, which often communicates through feelings, as I said, feels abandoned. The second way is, many of us have learned to harshly judge ourselves. Like I said, I had very judgmental parents. Both my parents were very judgmental. And so we incorporate that. We incorporate what we call their ego wounded self into our ego wounded self. And we often treat ourselves the ways that we were treated, or the ways that we absorb that parents or caregivers treated themselves. And so most of us absorb a lot of judgments that are really false beliefs, but they're harsh, and they create pain, they create anxiety, they create depression, guilt, and shame. And so this is a second way, is judging ourselves, letting that ego part of us take over and be very judgmental of ourselves. The third way that most people have learned to abandon themselves is to numb out their feelings. We have a million ways. We can use food or alcohol or drugs. We can use
Mhm.
internet, the phone, social media, pornography, shopping, spending, working. There's a million ways in our society to avoid our feelings, a million addictive ways. Anything that we do where the intention is to avoid our feelings becomes an addiction. I mean, we can watch television because our favorite program is on and we just want to relax, or we can watch television to avoid our feelings. We can have a glass of wine because we enjoy wine, or we can have a glass of wine to avoid our feelings. Depends upon the intention. And in inner bonding, there's only two intentions. One is the intention to protect against pain with various kinds of controlling behavior. And that's what I'm talking about. Staying in your head, judging yourself, numbing out with addiction. These are all forms of controlling behavior to avoid your painful feelings rather than learning to take responsibility for them. And the other intention is to open to learning about what's true and what's loving to yourself and loving to others. So when we're abandoning ourselves, obviously, our intention is to protect, to control, to avoid. Now, the fourth way that we abandon ourselves, and this goes on a lot of relationships, is we hand responsibility to somebody else to make us feel safe and loved and worthy. People do this all the time in relationships.
Codependency.
Part of us believes
Hmm.
that it's somebody else's job, not our job.
Right, right. Wow. Yeah, that hit upon a lot of things. I can imagine you're trying to fill that void with drugs, sex, gambling, whatever. Yep.
Right?
Hmm.
That's right. And so that's why somebody else can't do it for us, even if they were to be loving to us. If we're abandoning ourselves,
Hmm.
it's going to feel awful. Like if there's a mother and father of a child, and one parent is loving to the child, but the other parent is mean and angry. No matter how much one parent is loving, the other one's going to affect the child in very negative ways. It's the same thing on the inner level. Somebody comes along and loves us, but we're not being loving to ourselves. We're abandoning ourselves. We're going to end up feeling really badly. So
Yeah.
somebody can support us in loving ourselves, but they can't do it for us.
Right. Wow. I did see Cassie. Oh, hi, Stacia. Jennifer. Cassie did ask, what's the best way to start inner child work? Great question, Cassie.
Yeah, so it's not, I don't actually call it inner child work. We call it inner bonding because it's
Hmm.
not just dealing with the inner child. It's dealing with becoming a loving adult. It's dealing with learning to connect with a source of love and wisdom, a higher source, because we don't have very many role models in our society for what it looks like to really love ourselves and be a loving adult. So the best way to start would be to go to our website, innerbonding.com, and take our free inner bonding course. That'll give you the overview of the 6 steps of inner bonding. Then there's a lot on the website. There's many, many articles that are very helpful. We have a community, inner bonding community, where I'm on for an hour and a half every other Wednesday, where I bring people through an inner bonding process. I talk on a topic, and I do laser sessions, short sessions with people, so they can see the inner bonding process in action. We have a website, inner bonding village that is part of that people get to join as part of that. Then there's many courses, like the Love Yourself course, and many books on how to learn inner bonding. Like you mentioned, the inner bonding workbook is a great way to
Hmm.
learn the 6 steps. It's a practice. It's like if you want to learn to play the piano, you have to learn the chords and then you have to practice. If you want to really learn how to love yourself and take loving care of your inner child, then you learn the 6 steps of inner bonding and you practice them. And it takes practice. It's not an instant process.
Right. Because you are reprogramming your brain.
That's right.
And you answered one of my questions. I was going to ask, where are your workshops? And I believe with 2020, it probably became something most with online.
Yes, so they are online. I do workshops online. I do the inner bonding community online. I have 5 30-day courses that are online with videos and emails. So, and then I have the book. So yes, right now they're still all online, and they may stay that way. I used to do in-person intensives, but it's very expensive. Like if people want to come,
Mm-hmm.
it's really expensive for them. And
Right.
online work, it works really well for people. People have been very happy with it online. I do once a month. I do a 1 day called Inner Bonding Breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
It's just for 4 people who have the money to do this. It's not inexpensive. It's for people who have the money but not the time, and they really want to learn inner bonding. And I work with 4 people for 6 hours in a very, very in-depth way.
Oh, I love that. So it's more personal, close. That's nice.
Yeah.
And you got to love Zoom, all the capabilities that Zoom has right now.
Yeah.
Rooms, it's wonderful. So,
Yeah, it really is. And Zoom now has the ability, like I can teach a workshop, and some of my facilitators who are in other countries can be translating in their language at the same time, which we're just starting to implement. So I'm excited about that.
that for translating, I didn't even think about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to go in and check in our room in Clubhouse and ask if anybody has any questions. I don't see anybody up on stage. I'll send an invite, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to come up. Because again, this show is for you. If you have any, hi Farina, how are you? Welcome. Again, feel free to flash your mic, guys, and I'm checking in the feeds. And Stacia did say, I like that concept because there's so many stages of healing our inner child. So thank you so very much, guys. Let me just go.
It's an ongoing process. It's not just we heal and we're done. It's a process.
You got to keep on going with the self.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I did have a question, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask. I know your work involves helping people practice this in a 6-step self-healing way, and anyone can go and find your book on inner bonding and learn about those 6 steps. But how would you say that would differ from some of the other authors who talk about inner child healing, such as Charles Whitfield and John Bradshaw?
Yeah. They don't include the spiritual element, and inner bonding very much includes a spiritual element. It's very different than the other authors. Like I said, it's not just inner child. They don't talk about the inner child being the soul within the body. They don't talk about the fact that the inner child generally communicates through feelings. They don't teach people how to access that higher source of love and truth. Without that, there's no true healing. This is what I found out when I was practicing traditional psychotherapy, which, as I said, I did for 17 years. There's no spirituality in traditional psychotherapy.
Right.
And so, if like people say, okay, I want to learn to love myself, I don't know how to do that. And, of course we don't. How many people have parents who really role model loving themselves? They may have loved their kids, but if they didn't love themselves, then the kids didn't learn how to do that. And so we need to be able to open to our higher spiritual guidance easily and quickly. And this is what inner bonding teaches people to do. You don't sit and meditate for hours to connect with your guidance. You learn to do it instantly in a second. Like you're in a situation with somebody who's yelling at you, being mean to you. You want to know how to take care of yourself instantly in that moment. You don't want to have to go and sit and meditate for an hour to figure out what to do. And so inner bonding, as you learn it and practice it and you get better and better at it, you have that, what I call at-will divine connection. It took me a lot of practice, but this is what I have at this point. I have at-will divine connection. I can access that information, that truth, that love, that strength, that wisdom, that compassion in a second. So, and that's because see, people don't understand what it means to connect with our higher guidance. This is what makes inner bonding so very different from all the other modalities that I know about, is that it does teach people to have at-will divine connection. And so if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about what that takes.
Yes, please. That's why you're my go-to person for this.
Okay. So being able to access your higher guidance is about frequency. Frequency is the rate at which your body, your energy is vibrating. Took me a long time to figure this out, to connect the dots here about what raises our frequency. But basically, there's two major things that we need to attend to in order to keep our frequency high enough to access our guidance. One is what I was talking about, and that is the intention to learn about loving yourself. It's very specific. It's not an intention to learn about the stock market. It's not an intention to learn about lottery numbers, whatever. It's an intention to learn about loving yourself and then about sharing your love with others. That opens the heart. It opens us and raises our frequency. When our intention is to control and protect and avoid, and creating feelings like anxiety and depression, our frequency is very low. That makes it very hard to access your spiritual guidance, which our guidance exists at a higher frequency than we operate. Our bodies operate at a dense, low frequency so we can see each other. Imagine if we were vibrating like a hummingbird's wings, we wouldn't see each other. So our bodies are fairly dense. And that means that we need to raise the frequency of our mind, of our energy. The intention to learn about loving yourself does one part of that. The other part of that is this has to do with the frequency of your body. And this has to do with what you put into your body. It has to do with what you eat. It has to do with how you treat yourself. So unfortunately, in our society, there's been, huge amounts since especially the 50s, huge amounts of junk food, high fructose corn syrup, factory farmed oil like safflower and sunflower and canola. These are not natural foods. God did not make these foods. These are industrial foods. And then so much of our food comes from factory farms where the soil is depleted and you're not getting nutrients, and you might be getting GMO, you might be getting toxic fertilizers and sprays, all kinds of things that go into factory farmed produce and meats. This lowers your frequency. It not only lowers your frequency, but it makes you sick. And so it lowers your energy, lowers the frequency of your body. So if you really want to have at-will divine connection, you need to learn to love yourself enough to feed yourself the way people ate 500 years ago, where they didn't have all this stuff. And you need to practice staying present in your body with your feelings and open to learn. This is what connects you with your divine guidance. And what happens when you practice this enough is you don't even have to be thinking about connecting with your guidance. When the energy of your body is high, the frequency of your body is high, the frequency of your mind is high, that guidance is here for you. And really, this is what creates true safety. Our ego-wounded self thinks that it creates us safe by judging ourselves and telling ourselves what we have to do and watch out for this and do that. That's not what keeps us safe. What keeps us safe is being connected to our divine guidance, who has a broader view of what's going on. My guidance has saved my life numerous times. That guidance is always there. So when you're open, you're going to get that information when you need it. You can ask for it, but when you stay open to it, like my guidance is popping things into my mind all the time. And that's just such a much better way to live.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so much.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I'm going to be wowing a lot. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, I know that there's a lot of people going through this. How are good behaviors that we've been taught, praise, being good, taking care of others, caretakers, how does that have a dark side?
Well, again, it's about our intention.
Yep.
I was a caretaker for a long time, thinking I was being very
Hmm.
loving with my parents, my kids, my husband, thinking I was being very, very loving. But the problem is that if you have an agenda attached, and most people do when they're giving to somebody, they're often expecting the other person to give back, or to love them, or to praise them, or to give them approval. If you have anything attached to your giving, it's a form of control. It's not a form of love. Love is a free gift. So we can care about people, and that's wonderful to care about people. But hopefully, when you're caring about others, it's coming from a full place because you've already cared about yourself. You're not coming from the emptiness that we feel when we abandon ourselves and then caretake others, trying to get them to fill up the emptiness and make us feel lovable and whole and worthy and safe. That's controlling, that's caretaking. Caregiving is giving with a full heart. Love is giving with a full heart. But caretaking, when you have an agenda, is controlling.
Right. And you can't control the outcome or the
No.
person. Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yes. Let me just go back in and check, guys. Please feel free to type in any questions you might have for Dr. Paul. I'm going to check back in on Clubhouse, see if anybody, please feel free to flash your mic if you have any questions. Welcome, Sissy. Oh, I'm sorry, Sassy and Sarah. I usually bring out my old lady magnifying glasses, guys. I'm so sorry. Let me just check again just to see. Yeah, I agree. Cassie said, wow. She's wowing too. Very powerful. And
Thank you, Nancy.
yeah, hi, Ira. Ira says, hello, hello, Margaret. Greetings to everyone. Welcome,
Hi.
everyone. And if you just pop in, guys, know you can go back to the replay on whatever platform you're on because we're going over some really great stuff here. So I did have another question. Again, please feel free to type your questions in, guys. How important is it for us to set boundaries for our own energy? And let me add on to this. I'm a mother of two teenage boys, and we provide a roof over their head, clothing, food, but they're at that age where they're doing whatever, and I'm very I want to protect them, but I also know they are their own person. Any suggestions on that?
Well, first of all, a boundary
Hmm.
is something that we set for ourselves.
Right,
Lots of times people think a boundary is, well, you can't talk to me that way. Well,
right,
that's not a boundary because we don't have any control over that.
right,
A boundary might be, when you talk to me that way, I'm going to walk away. And then we walk away when we
right,
talk to you that way. That's a boundary. That's taking care of ourselves. A boundary is a way to take care of ourselves, like you said, our own energy.
right,
And of course, with kids, you do want to preserve your energy. You do want to make sure that they respect the time you need for yourself to regenerate, or the time you need to create, or the time you need with friends or work or whatever. With my kids, we made sure that we had time alone with them. They understood time alone. So we had time alone with them. We had time alone with ourselves. We had time alone with each other. And that's very important for children to respect and honor that. Um, so I'm not sure what else you're asking, Lisa.
I guess that was for anybody that might have any difficult, they're trying to express their independence, and I want them to, but then I'm also protective of, I just don't want them to get into things I know won't be good for them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Obviously, we don't. Nobody wants their kids to get into those things, but
Yeah.
ultimately, we don't have control over them.
Right.
The best things that parents can do is role model personal responsibility for their own feelings. Most
Right.
kids never see that. They have no idea
Right.
to take responsibility for their feelings.
Right.
So then they'll get into things to avoid their feelings. They'll get into drugs, or they'll get into being on their phones all the time, or screens all the time, because they're avoiding their feelings. When the intent is to avoid your feelings, then they're going to get addicted to those things. And so actually children learn inner bonding way easier than adults.
Yep.
The kids that I've worked with, they're amazing. They just take off with it. It's so much easier because they don't have years operating out of their ego woundedness.
Of undoing, yes.
And so it's not a hard process to learn. Kids as young as 3 have learned it. It's not a hard process. In fact, 3-year-olds can do it so much easier than we can. They've got their imaginary friend they go to, or their fairy godmother, and it's not that hard for them to hold a doll and think, okay, that's my feelings. That's my inner child. I'm going to take care of that child. It's not that hard for them to do that. It's much harder for us as adults. So one of the best things that people can do for their kids is, I always say kids need our attention. They need our love. But the other half of good parenting is to role model personal responsibility, is to practice inner bonding and role model that. And that's a huge gift. A great gift to give kids is a happy parent. I would have done anything if my parents had been happy, but they weren't, and they didn't role model how to take responsibility for their happiness.
Right. Well, that's the thing when you're being raised in a house, maybe one parent's doing drugs, and you don't know where to go to. So you'll reach out to your friends, do something wrong. So yeah. Oh, hi, Julia. How are you? If you have any questions, please feel free to flash your mic for Dr. Paul.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you?
No questions so far, just listening in. And just very interesting topic.
It is, isn't it? I'm so grateful to have Dr. Paul on to discuss this. And thank you so much. Please feel free to share this live out, guys. The more the merrier that Dr. Paul can reach today. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you've missed anything, you can go back to the replay. Mary just said, my kids and I lived through trauma of living with an addict. So as much as I've tried to shield them from that, we've all suffered from trauma. I'll be buying the book for the kids and I. That's awesome.
Right. Yes, that is traumatic. And the interesting thing about trauma, because I worked with people with a lot of trauma, there's wonderful trauma therapies out there. There's the emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping on the meridians, and there's the somatic experiencing, and there's their EMDR, and there's the trauma release exercises. But what I have found is that unless people are also doing inner bonding, none of these hold. And the reason is that if you're treating yourself the ways your parents treated you, in other words, you're ignoring your feelings, you're judging yourself, you're numbing out with addictions, you're making other people responsible for your feelings, handing your inner child away to others, you are constantly re-traumatizing yourself. As soon as you treat yourself the way that you were treated, you are re-traumatizing yourself. And so you can do all the trauma therapies. And I get this all the time. People come to me, oh, I've done this trauma therapy, didn't do any good. It's not that they don't help, but they're continuing to abandon themselves, which is re-traumatizing. So it's very important to do inner bonding along with the trauma therapies.
Yes. I understand. I'm going to be buying your book as well, and the children, the book that we did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you also have a book about diet as well. And I meant to mention that. What
So it's called Diet for a Divine Connection Beyond Junk Foods and Junk Thoughts to At-Will Spiritual Connection. And the whole first half of the book is about how much what you put in your body affects your frequency. There's been a lot of research on this. It affects the gut. And, the research has now shown that our gut is the center of our immune system, the microbiome, the center of our immune system. And when we're eating badly, it puts the gut out of balance and creates toxicity. That toxicity not only goes into the body because it creates holes in the walls of the intestine, it goes into the organs and creates like cancer and heart disease and diabetes and all these illnesses, but it also goes up the vagus nerve into the brain, and that creates anxiety and depression. So that is one of the causes, one of the major causes of anxiety and depression is a poor diet, along with lowering your frequency so that you can't connect with your higher guidance. So the first part of the book deals with that, and the second part of the book teaches people the inner bonding process. Like I said, those are the two things, being open to learning and your diet. And one of the things that's so important is learning to love yourself on the physical level, not just emotionally, spiritually, in relationships, financially, organizationally. These are all aspects of loving ourselves, but also physically. And so many people don't. They don't treat their bodies like a house of their soul. They don't treat their bodies with respect. And so they get all kinds of illnesses, and they sort of expect to get them, but they don't have to. One of the interesting experiences that I'm having is that I had a very close group of friends in junior high school, 7 of us. And I was one who moved away. A couple people moved away. Most of them stayed in the LA area. And a lot of them stayed connected, but I didn't. And then a couple years ago, during COVID, we all reconnected. And we've been meeting online once a month. So we're all the same age. So I'm going to be 83 soon. So all of us are 82 or 83.
Oh, that's my mom's. You don't look it at all. You look like my mom, very young.
That's because I've been eating this way for over 60 years. So anyway, of the 7 of us, I am the only healthy one. None of them have been eating healthy, and they think it's normal to have a hip replacement or a knee replacement or an elbow replacement or to have this kind of cancer or that kind of cancer or this. I mean, they think it's normal. I don't have any of those things.
Right.
And I'm the only one.
Yeah. And I honestly believe we have that false belief that if my parent had this, I'm just automatically going to get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't have to. Your genes do not determine your destiny. In fact, the foods you put in your body either turn on or turn off your genes. And so it's really very important for people to learn about how the body reacts to food. I love reading books on health and nutrition. I've kept up on it for all these years since my early 20s. I was sickly, and that's when I started reading. And that's when I went on all organic foods at that time, even though there was only one little health food store. And so that's been almost 61 years now that I've been doing that. And I read everything that I can about it. And I think this is very important for people because people have no idea how to keep themselves healthy.
It sure is. Oh, Jennifer just asked, what's the name of that book again? The diet.
Oh, Diet for Divine Connection.
Diet for Divine Connection, guys. Check it out. Because I want to say we didn't have breast cancer in my family at all. No. But I'm a breast cancer survivor. And what I used to do was eat ice cream.
Yeah.
That was my reward to myself.
Right.
Boy, oh boy, what a reward. Yeah, with all the things that they inject.
Oh, yeah. They put so much in ice cream and the sugar is very toxic. Mm-hmm. But you see, people think that they have to be deprived. But for example, I make ice cream, but I get the cream at a health food store from Supernatural, which is a very healthy cream. And I put it in an ice cream maker with some honey, and it's absolutely delicious. People eat the ice cream and think, oh my God, this is how ice cream is supposed to taste. It's not, you can't have these things. Well, you just can't get them from the store.
Is your ice cream maker that ball you put things in and then you kick it around? Because I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a Cuisinart. You know, you keep part of it in the freezer and then you just pour in what you want and it makes the ice cream, and it is just unbelievably good.
I bet. I'm gonna I was thinking about buying that one. I thought my kids will get a kick out of it. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's a ball and you can put all the ingredients in and kick it around the house. Yeah,
mine is a Cuisinart. And you keep the center part in the freezer and you just bring it out, fill it up, turn it on, and about 20, 25 minutes, you got ice cream.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's me. Oh, we have more people popping in. let me just send some invites up. If anybody has any questions for Dr. Paul, please feel free to unmute your mic. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Luminous and Allison. Okay. Cassie just asked, I've wanted to know about, I wanted to know about the ball one too. I just saw an advertisement about it. I thought, oh, my kids would love that. And then at the end, they get ice cream. I mean, how cool is that? So let me just, I wanted to ask, what do you suggest for people who can't access their feelings or their inner child? What would you suggest?
Yeah, what I suggest is that they start to practice inner bonding with developing their loving adult and their spiritual connection. Because if they can't access their feelings, it means that their inner child doesn't trust them. It's not that those feelings are not there, but that their inner child is hiding away because they don't trust. Like with my mother, I did not trust her with my feelings. So I never told her my feelings because she wasn't a compassionate and caring person. Well,
Right.
if you haven't been a caring person about your feelings, your inner child doesn't trust you. And so then you work on developing, becoming a trustworthy adult. And you can learn this by practicing inner bonding. And you'll find it doesn't take very long, maybe a few weeks or a month before you start to be able to access your feelings. It doesn't take forever for that inner child to start to trust that you really do want to listen, that you really do want to know your feelings. One of the things that it takes practice, step one of inner bonding, is learning to be present in your body, because that's where your feelings are. It took me a long time to get this because I was a caretaker. I was in my head. I learned to be very tuned into other people's feelings, but not at all my own. My feelings didn't matter. Nobody knew my feelings anyway. So, I didn't know what I felt. So when I started to practice inner bonding, I had like set an alarm. I wore a little thing called a motivator that buzzed against my body to remind me to get in my body because I was in my head. But eventually I learned to live in my body. And when you live in your body, you become aware of your feelings because that's where your body is. So that's where your feelings are. So the practice of moving from mind focus into body focus, that in itself is a practice. And that's step one of inner bonding.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go out and two of your books, 3 of your books are already on my list. So thank you so much. And welcome to Muna. Please feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to come up on stage if you have any questions for Dr. Paul. Again, I'm going to reset the room. My name's Lisa Huber with the Divine I Am Broadcast Network, and you're listening to the wonderful Dr. Margaret Paul, and she's live now on that link pinned above. And if you've missed anything, please know you can go back and hit the replay on whatever platform you're on. I'm just going to check to make sure we don't have any questions because I know your our time's coming to an end, and I wanted to check to see if anybody had any more questions. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're in Colorado, correct?
Right.
So if you did run any, it would be. Well, you were traveling a lot before 2022. I saw.
I was doing workshops at Crapalo, and I was doing my 1440 Multiversity and Art of Living and all of that. But
right,
you know what? I don't miss the travel at all.
No, I'm sure you don't. And like I said, Zoom's awesome. All those different capabilities you have, and I didn't even think about that with the translators. That's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, and when I would do a workshop, there would be maybe 50 or 100 people. But when I did my first workshop online, there were 500 people. So, that's a whole lot better. And they come all over the world. And so I can get inner bonding to a whole lot more people.
Yes. Janelle, welcome. She said, thank you for this beautiful spirit-filled practice.
Oh, thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, yeah, I know we have to, our time's coming to an end, but I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you'll reach out to Dr. Paul at innerbonding.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and hit that notification bell on whatever platform you're on, as we have so many wonderful guests appearing on our show. And Dr. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Oh my goodness, I was so
welcome. And I want to say also, I work with people individually and we have many trained facilitators who work with people individually, and we have a fabulous training program. If anybody is interested in becoming a inner bonding facilitator, our training program is incredible.
Oh my goodness. Sign me up. I'm going to be there. I'm so glad you said that. And I was going to ask, did you have anything you wanted to say to anybody?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So there's so many ways of getting help. And some of them, of course, cost more, but there's many free ways on the website that people can receive help in learning inner bonding.
That's wonderful. Thank you so, so much. Thank you again, Dr. Paul, and everyone that joined us. I hope you'll share this room out wherever you're at. Share this out so that so many people can receive this information. It's just wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Paul. And I hope you all have a wonderful week and so much love and gratitude to you all. Mwah. Thank you, Dr. Paul. It was
Lisa.
Thank you. Everyone, take care. So much love to you. Mwah.